Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is you're watching this. I do hope it finds you well. My name is John, and I am an author. And I'm coming to you here on another Talking Tuesday to go over another thing that has been a big influence on me for quite some time now, or sort of my life, writing, philosophy, whatever you want to call it. And that is the show aired throughout the 90s called Babylon 5. It is a science fiction show, although by the creator, J. Michael Straczynski's own admission, is very, very heavily influenced, sort of story, morality, setting, everything like that, by Lord of the Rings. And it definitely has some fantasy elements. For those of you who aren't familiar, this might be one that isn't familiar to quite as many people, but basically it's a takes place on a space station, the titular Babylon 5, as sort of a meeting and commerce place between all the major and minor races in the galaxy, and it sort of goes over you know good, evil, order versus chaos, various political things of the different groups, trying to earn and gain power and all that kind of stuff, and fighting for freedom and self determination and all that good stuff. Um, it is a it was one of I think the first shows to sort of really make use of CGI technology to prevent its present its the station, pretty much anything. I think they largely didn't use practical effects. It was CGI. And it was also one of the first TV shows to really extensively use serialized storytelling. Like, there are episodes of the show that certainly served and more or less stand on their own, but you never know when a hint or information could possibly be provided. There are hints and you know hints of things and plot threads that are set up in the pilot film that was made for it that don't pay off until like season 4 of the show, and it's really like a very built up, interconnected mythology that's um, recurring characters, recurring ideas, and large sections of the show are very heavily interconnected, especially once you get past the first season or two, which has a lot of foreshadowing. It's a really extraordinary piece of writing that the creator, J. Michael Straczynski, wrote something uh, like 92 of the show's 110 episodes or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but he wrote a massive number of them, including, I believe, all of the scripts for the third and fourth season for the show, which is a really extraordinary feat. And there's a lot of good lessons in writing of what he did. That literally every who built into every character's sort of story and arc what he called trapdoors, where if the character wasn't working or if the actor decided to leave the show, which happened a few times, um, they could just drop the character like right out of the story without too majorly impacting anything else. Um, and then bring in other characters later or whatever that was needed to fill the role. So there's really a lot of good lessons in sort of writing and how to lay in, foreshadowing into the story and build a connected storylines. There's certainly some things just sort of on a technical sense for a writer that are really interesting with the show, as well as its several like spin-off movies, a very short-lived attempted spin-off series as well. I believe there's an animated thing that's I need to check out at some point that's either coming out or came out recently, and I've heard talks of a reboot, which I'm always have some skepticism over, needless to say. Um, I first discovered the show when I was a kid. They would the show the station it was on, UPN, if anybody remembers UPN, um, ran reruns of Babylon 5 in the mornings, like very early in the morning, and I would tend to watch it before I went to school in the morning, or at least would catch parts of episodes, and was just really, really fascinated by some of the information, some of the like ideas and storylines. It was just a very, as a preteen or what, whatever it would have been at the time, like just really, really fascinated by this world, by the effects that were at the time quite impressive. Fair warning, if you go back and watch it, some of the visual effects, especially in the first season, are it's very clear that it's early days CGI, and it can get a little, it's cool at the time, seems a little distracting in hindsight. Um, but yeah, it was a really, really well done, really, really well done show. And then when I got to college, I had some friends who were a fan of the show and sort of rediscovered it then and watched it from the beginning. Um, and I've watched it through like start to finish 3 or 4 times now, and just for a lot of the similar things, I like a lot of both fantasy and science fiction. The show marries those two very, very effectively. A lot of times, it's just a really, really well connected storyline, some great, just sort of the philosophy in the show of like the importance of working together and being open and fighting for freedom and self determination and not letting others control you or tell you what to do or insist that you have to do things a certain way. Um, on the show, it's a really wonderful series of characters. All the series regulars are just really fantastic characters. Um, and just some really great interplay between them, and just sort of evolving characters and relationships that are superbly well handled. Um, so yeah, it's a show just I've greatly admired and greatly enjoy. I feel I need to like check it out or watch it again sometime soon because it's been a while since I've seen it. But um, it's just one that's really really, really stuck with me. Um, just how well made, how well structured it is. Um, yeah, it's a show I strongly recommend watching from the beginning, even though the CGI for the first season, especially the first half of the first season, is a little rough. The first season has probably the most standalone episodes, and it's not the first season's not the greatest, but it's really important to watch. There are some really excellent episodes in the first season, but there's just so much character and insight and foreshadowing that comes from the first season. That is really important to watch the pilot movie in the first season, and then things really start picking up in the second. The third and fourth season are just absolutely phenomenal. And due to a complicated situation where they thought the show was going to be canceled which was always planned to have 5 seasons, was going to be canceled after 4 seasons, but then it wasn't canceled, even though Straczynski had worked things around where basically what was supposed to be season 4, season 5 was sort of compressed into season 4. it leads to a very an almost unique take on a season 5 of, most fantasies, most science fiction ends with, you know evil being defeated, good triumphing, whatever. um you know the ring is destroyed. you know Frodo and Bilbo go off into the true west. The Death Star is blown up. They escape the Empire. The Death Star is blown up. We're all familiar with that, where it ends on a victory for the good guys. But season 5 is a great look at a what happens next. Like, what happens when the good guys have won, but now have to do all the work of picking up the pieces and putting life, society, etc. back together again. It's also fifth season, in my opinion, has some issues. They could be, I think they could have done a little bit of a better um, job at a few places. It's kind of like the first season. There's a few more standalone episodes, some of which aren't the best. Some of the storylines weren't great, but really the whole idea, I mean, conceptually, a what happens next season is very, very fascinating. There's some excellent storylines within it, and some really great episodes again too. So it's worth watching all the way through. It's got one of my absolutely all time favorites, and I think best series finales. An episode called "Sleeping in Light," just tremendous. Um, it's got I think one of the best runs of episodes. The last episode of season 3, and then running into the first 6 episodes of season 4, is, I think, one of the best runs of episodes. They're all sort of take place one after another, but sort of one of the absolute best runs of episodes that I've still to this day ever seen. So yeah, that's just for a lot of the similar reasons as Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Star Trek. The philosophy's been very impactful. The lessons in foreshadowing and writing and planning things out have been very impactful on me, and it's really just an excellent show, and one that I would highly recommend people check out when they have a chance. Speaking of checking out, it would be phenomenal if you guys would check out my 2 books. They're both available on Amazon: The Shadow of the Past and The Sunburned Red. Both of those are linked below. Also, I've got all my socials below. Have you seen Babylon 5? Do you like Babylon 5? What are your some of favorite plots and characters and episodes and all that stuff? Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, follow my socials. All of that is below. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful day, get a chance to do or experience something creative today, and I'll catch you on the next one.